Make sure you stick around to the very end of the video to see if you won 2 rolls of free Be Quiet sound editor from last week's video. Let's get to it. So here's what we have before, and this is what we have after. What we've done is, since that was locked in place, now we're able to actually start working the headliner forward. Be quiet, I see you. This looks awesome. And now here we have the complete rear glass trim. Now what you see here is not actually plastic like a lot of trim pieces you see. This is actually metal. You can see if you look closely, it's got rust on it. So we can treat this like we would any car part that is metal, sand it down, get all the rust off of it, prime it, paint it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to scuff it up, get all the rust off of it, smooth it out, and then hit it with some flat black. And the reason we go with flat black here is because it really matches the door panels, and once we get these complete, I'll show you how nice they look against it. A couple places here you can see I got on the bare metal just a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll actually use some self-etching primer to get that back to bond to that nicely to that bare metal. We can use the rest of the existing paint as an existing primer, so we don't have to prime the entire thing. Now we will do Rust-Oleum flat black. While that third coat of paint dries, I really wanted to demonstrate why we went with the flat black. When I got the door panels on, I really knew what to do at that point, but before then I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with a satin, a semi-gloss, or whatever to do. Once I got the door panel, and you can really see on these trim pieces I've already painted, check out the similarity with the flat against that door panel. Really see that these are going to match, because what's going to happen is all the trim pieces, you know, these are metal, but the plastic ones as well, will get painted flat black, because they're all going to run into each other. So we have to make sure everything matches, and that's why you got to bounce off the door panels, bounce that off against your trim to make sure everything is going to work together. Now these are actually what go up on the top side of the doors so you can see it against the headliner. The headliner is a little bit lighter, but it's still a flat shade of a dark gray, almost black. So it's really good to make sure everything matches and looks nice. You guys remember the last video when we did the headliner, I ripped out this gasket right here. And told you guys we were going to replace it, and now is the time. And of course, this is also supplied by Classic Industries, so if you need something like this, you need to let them know. Tell them what you're working on, and they will help you out. They have just about everything you would need for whatever car they have in their catalog. If it's something you're working on, they have it. The best part about using a new gasket like this is that all your wind noise and any issues you may have, you won't hear them, you won't have any leaks. And the problem with, like I said in the last video, frameless doors, they just have a lot of noise, and this will eliminate that. Keep your car feeling new, keep it quiet inside, keep your heat and your air, whatever you got going on, keep it in the car where it needs to stay. Just like that, a brand new gasket's installed. Thank you again, Classic Industries. And honestly, this is something for me speaking from experience. You will not go wrong with replacing this gasket. All these gaskets shrink with age, and it's as simple as it is to replace. You'd be crazy not to do it. So Classic Industries again supported the Challenger once more by supplying some brand new back glass and front windshield, courtesy of AMD. Now you will see us put in the back glass this video. We will not put in the windshield just yet until the dash is complete and ready to go. Just wanted to unpack all this and show you what we have. And look how safe Classic really wants to keep this glass. So it's going to be a treasure hunt just to get this out of here. Just wanted to show you the lengths that they go to make sure that this stuff stays safe on transport. And yes, they are still shipping through the quarantine situation, and they've been supplying me with plenty of parts, and this glass is one of them. The windshield's in here. I'm going to save that for later, but I wanted to show you guys what we've got going on here. So let's unwrap it. We also have these neat little clips for the windshield trim. We'll put all these around the back glass. Classic Industries sent me a whole bag worth of these suckers. So we'll throw those in here real quick because a lot of these are old and brittle and they're really easy to break. So if you have the chance to replace them, now is the perfect time to do it. Here you can see is one of the original ones, and here is one of the new ones. Now, this is one of the nicest ones that I found on the car. Every other single one broke as I pulled them off. So that's why it's really a good idea to go ahead and pop these in here while you got the chance. So you can see in there's a little peg that this little clip will sit in. It's pretty simple. And all I do is just tap it into place. Simple as that. Now that our glass clips are actually in place and ready to go, we've got a few different tools that we're going to use to install the back glass. Here we have some tape that is butyl, and this is what it was used from the factory. And on top of that, we've got some window urethane. We're going to use both of these in conjunction to make sure the glass stays in place and stays safe. Now, this was supplied by Classic Industries, and typically you can get away with just using this, but I like the added protection and security that this will not leak that comes from the urethane.
Alright, we'll just set it in here on top of them and lay it in and see if that placement of the glass is going to be about right.
I'm going to do it now with this plastic on it. Looks like it needs to come my way. Or maybe not. Yeah, I got the whole pinch wheel exposed over here.
Here's the deal, here's the trick, you can get it where you want it. Get a piece of blue tape and tape the car and the glass, and then take a razor blade and cut it. But I guess we need to make sure we got our height.
Yeah, it needs to sit higher up. Just barely touching that lip. Touch your way. Okay, it's pretty close. You hold it, I'll put my hand up inside. Okay.
All right.
right on it. Well, there's a back glass. It's in the car finally. And the urethane isn't necessarily for our purposes and the way I do it, the way Dad and I discussed it, wasn't necessarily meant to glue the glass in, but more of as an added protection layer because this little butyl strip, it works, but the problem is that this is all that you have for water barrier. So if you have like this tiniest little spot that may have not gotten the complete compression that you need, because you can tell whenever it presses against the glass, you can really see it. And what we did, we laid our palms flat on it, pressed it down real gently until we saw everything that we could, and then I just ran a bead of urethane along that edge, right on the glass. And then Dad came up with a good idea to take like a paint strip, so you can see what I did. On places that I didn't do that, I ran my finger across it with a glove, and then just to lock that channel right here where the butyl strip sits and that urethane sits on it. So you set the urethane on it, wipe it smooth or press it up against the glass, like brush it against the glass, and that really locks in that barrier and makes sure that it won't leak. And then what I'll do, Dad came up with another good idea. Before we put anything in the interior, I'll just take a garden hose, run around after it dries, run around the edges, see if there are any leaks, and if there are, I've still got the rest of that urethane. I can just touch it up a little bit. Now there are people who do it differently. There's some people who don't like the urethane, some people don't like the butyl strip, but it's whatever you want to do, whatever works best. And I really like using that butyl strip because it raises the glass up off the car. Because if you ran just straight up urethane and you laid it on the car itself, on the newer cars you do that, but on this car it would make the glass sit way too low in that channel. So that's why I like running this strip right here, because it's got a bit of a thickness to it that'll raise the glass up, and then you can adjust it accordingly and glue it in places that need it. So once this dries, we check it for leaks, then we'll put the trim on it and it'll be all complete, and we'll clean up the glass and see how crystal clear it looks. A little quick tip whenever you use this urethane on the glass to seal it. Now you'll see that I got a little bit right here, but what I did was I took a razor blade and I just laid it real flat and level, most of it on the glass itself, and just ran along the edge. What that does is it's going to scrape all the excess off of the edge, and then when you put the trim on, you'll never even see it. So it's just a good little cleanup tool, and if you get something on it, don't sweat it. It's not that big of a deal. Stuff doesn't really stick to glass, so you've got a way out in case you mess up. So I have this empty water bottle. I'm going to really pour it to it and demonstrate how this really does work. I've already done it and tested it, and I haven't made any adjustments since then, but I wanted to show you guys what I did, and I just poured it to it, right along those channels. You can really see where water accumulates the most. And if you survive anything like this, as much water as I'm pouring on it, I think I'll be okay. You can see all the water running right down the quarter panel. And then what I did after that, went inside and I ran my finger on the inside all along the channel. After I did coat the other side too. I got water all in it. Once I did that, I ran my finger on the inside of that channel and no water came through. So that is watertight and it will not leak. So I feel good about it, and just that little extra step. What you're seeing here is me actually installing the trim that goes around the back glass that we just painted. What I'm doing is, since the headliner is actually covering up these holes, I'm going to set these kind of in the relative location of where they need to be, and then I take
my little ice pick here. See how it's got that nice little hook on the end of it? I can reach up in between the trim and the headliner and then poke the hole that goes right where the screw hole is, and then I can screw it up in place. So what I did, went like that, got it up in where it needs to be, grabbed one of my screws, what I'm doing is I'm working my way around and I'm just going a little bit at a time, keeping them all loose because it's going to be easier to move this thing around with the screws actually undone. One thing we still haven't done from the last video is actually take and get rid of all these wrinkles. Now, I haven't really got to let the car sit out in the sun a whole lot, and just because we've had rain, we've had storms here and there, and it didn't have a window in it. But now that it does, we can really let this thing sit outside and get some sun. But we're also going to hit it with a little bit of a heat gun and get some of these big wrinkles out. But after that, I don't think we'll have any issues whatsoever. Drop that. Cool. Once we get all the wrinkles out of it, man, this thing's really going to look good. And this is really the worst part about it, because it was having to bend around this back glass and make things fit. So it's just a little bit difficult to do. But now that we have everything in place and actually installed, we can go back and finalize with the heat gun. And we'll get all these wrinkles out, but everywhere else looks okay. And that means all along the doors on the back glass is totally installed and complete. And honestly, it looks fantastic. I love the way it turned out. All that trim really does match and look good. And I'm glad we went ahead and went with the flat black. It really does look nice against that headliner. The next step here is to install our window trim. But before I put it on, I wanted to just go ahead and hit it with some rubbing compound. There's the trim here before, then there it is after. This all stainless. And what would really help is if I had a buffing wheel, but I don't. So I'm doing all this by hand. But I'll demonstrate a little bit and show you guys what I'm doing. But you can really see, it's driver quality. It's not perfect. Still has some light scratches in it, but it really does pop. And once all of this is done with those new chrome bumpers, it's really gonna look clean. Here's where all these new window trim clips come in handy. Right about this time. Thing is, if you try to do that with one of them old ones, be very, very susceptible to breaking one. That's why it's just good to go ahead and do it now. Okay. First piece of trim back installed. Look at that. Nice. There's the final piece of the trim puzzle. And there it is. Totally brand new back glass, polished stainless trim, All looking really nice on the Challenger. Man, it looks amazing. So much better. Definitely better than putting in that old foggy back glass and it doesn't leak. We checked that multiple times over, made sure it was going to be okay. Everything looks awesome. Spent like 2 or 3 hours just polishing that trim right there to make sure it'll pop. And boy, does it. And then once you get all that trim in there, it hides all that urethane, all that butyl strip, and you never even know it's there. That's what's great about it. And it'll be good for years to come. It looks awesome. Now the trim isn't perfect. It's not got all the scratches out of it. And I may, one day down the road, take it back off and get somebody to polish it or get a machine to do the thing. But as for now, it looks way better. So you can see the shininess there, the shininess of our bumper. So everything's going to look really good whenever everything's polished and clean. But I'm just so glad that we got the glass back in, the headliner's in, and now we can shift our focus to more things around the interior, around the headliner, move to the front windshield after the dash gets put in. We got a lot of really cool stuff planned ahead, and this is a big milestone in the right direction. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like down below. If you have a question for me, feel free to leave a comment. Order your t-shirts and your stickers and submit your project to the Facebook page. And speaking of projects, the winner of 2 rolls of Be Quiet sound deadening is John Gillespie. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, but he won the 2 rolls of Be Quiet sound deadener. He says he's building a 67 Mustang Fastback I bought with deployment money. She was torn down to a shell and now has a TKO 600 with a 302. I plan on putting a 351 Windsor out of my old 94 Lightning once I finish the interior up. So thank you, John, for supporting the channel, supporting the build, and you are the winner. So I'm going to send you a comment, and then you need to email me at dylanmccool1970@gmail.com. Send me an email, and we'll get together on shipping you those 2 rolls. So thanks again, guys. I'll see you the next one.